So we recently got some pretty big teases for the future of Diablo 4 and communication between developers and players. So on Reddit, Adam Fletcher was responding to some comments. The first one was asking about Chaos Armor and how that's going to be transferring to Eternal Realms at the end of Season 10. And he says that these will move, but they will have their unique power and chaotic presentation removed. So I don't exactly know what that's going to mean. I don't know if these Chaos items are going to be usable at all on the Eternal Realms, or if they're just going to be kind of these items without unique powers, and they'll obviously have their chaotic presentation removed. So there might just be items some people want to save because they were like legacy items from different seasons. And the main reason I even want to talk about that in this video is because I really hope at some point in the future Chaos Armor is brought back. I'll also be releasing a video on why I think that should be the case and why Chaos Armor is actually so good for the game. But I also didn't think that Chaos Armor was going to be in Season 11. If Chaos Armor is going to be brought back in like a different form or a nerf down form, it'll probably be at some point in the future, because we do also know there will be some pretty big overhauls coming to Diablo 4, and that's actually some of the information we have also received, because Adam Fletcher also said that expect some fairly large system changes to come to light in a PTR for Season 11. Now, we have been getting teased about these big overhauls coming to Diablo 4. They did that call with a bunch of content creators, then they flew a bunch of content creators out to the Blizzard campus to essentially test some of these new overhauls. And from what a bunch of people have been giving a few teases about, it seems like this is kind of going to be Diablo 4 2.0, and it very much doesn't sound like it's going to be kind of the system overhauls we've been getting recently, where they kind of overhaul a bit of like nightmare dungeons or infernal hordes and then add some new stuff to it. Those are lighter, more content updates to some of our systems in the game. It sounds like with this stuff coming up, seemingly starting in Season 11, that these are going to be much more fundamental changes or overhauls to kind of the base foundation of Diablo 4. And if I would have to guess, the first one is going to be a skill tree overhaul. This is obviously the biggest thing that really hasn't been touched much in the entirety of the game's history so far. And this is probably the thing that is not only what they could get the most bang for their buck from, but this is also a thing that's probably going to tie into all of the other systems of the game and touch a lot of those systems in some way. So I would assume that's the first thing they want to get done and kind of need to get done. He also says that there are plans to update players regarding D4 content soon TM. This includes Season 11 and beyond. So it sounds like with the Season 11 PTR, we're going to start to get that big overhaul that sounds like it's going to be Diablo 4 2.0, but it sounds like before then, we're going to have some communication from the developers giving us information on what's coming with the Season 11 and what's coming after that point. Because keep in mind, we've already gotten it revealed previously that the earliest point we would see the next expansion is with Season 12. And I still think there is a good possibility that Season 12 comes with the expansion. If it's not with Season 12, I would probably expect it to be Season 13. If it goes to Season 14, it's most likely them pushing back the expansion to give us most of these big overhauls before the expansion. So I think that's the window we can expect the next expansion. Season 12 or 13, I would honestly be pretty surprised if it was Season 14. And I think I'll probably be doing some future videos going over what I want to see with these big overhauls, because if these overhauls are as big as some people have been teasing, which sounds like it's going to be Diablo 4 2.0, I think it's going to touch a lot of the game, especially some of the major systems like our skill trees. But I also think these are going to be some pretty fundamental changes that also hook into a lot of the system overhauls we've been getting, because one of my big criticisms with a lot of the recent system overhauls we've been getting, which has started even all the way back with the Helltide overhauls. So you have the Helltide overhauls, the Nightmare Dungeon overhauls, Infernal Horde overhauls, we have the Whisper overhauls. All of those overhauls I think have been just good additions to the game. Like, they have all been positive changes that just make the game better. In pretty much all of those cases, I don't think they have went far enough. And I think with some of the more recent ones, I think one of the possibilities as to why they didn't go far enough is because they were making those systems with the knowledge of these big overhauls coming in the future, to where those system overhauls would have been putting them in position to be added upon much more easily with these new big overhauls that are probably going to hook into everything. So one of the really big things that I think a lot of people have been wanting is some meta progression within the game, tying into a lot of the endgame systems. Like you go over to Path of Exile or Path of Exile 2, you have essentially passive trees that you can keep upgrading that just buff up or change things in certain endgame systems. A lot of people have been wanting that for Diablo 4 systems, and I think if they were going to do that, they would want to get a lot of the systems that the meta progression is going to hook into a good spot to be upgraded and have these meta systems tie into much more easily. So that's a pretty big possibility of why they didn't go far enough with some of these system overhauls. And then we obviously have something like the skill tree overhaul, which we know is coming. They actually talked about what they want to do with this specifically in the past. They essentially want to take any of the playstyle customization out of aspects, put that into the skill tree, which would obviously need a complete overhaul or a massive expansion to be able to do. And they want aspects to be more power focused. So we know a massive skill tree overhaul is coming. That would also tie into a lot of these systems and require a lot of other progression systems in the game to get some amount of overhaul or changing. And the main thing I'm getting at with this is that a lot of the overhauls they're seeming to be doing that's going to be starting in season 11 really requires a majority of the game to be touched in some way. You can't really do like a big overhaul and expansion to skill trees without changing a bunch of the other systems in the game, because it all kind of hooks in together in some way, and they can't add like a big meta progression system without in some way touching all of those endgame systems that it would be hooking into. Which brings me back to, I think a lot of those overhauls have actually been like the precursor changes that are going to lead us into what's essentially going to be Diablo 4 2.0. And also the third thing Adam Fletcher said about giving us more updates soon, I am really curious to see the next developer live stream, because remember, we didn't get a developer live stream for season 10 PTR because they were changing how they do those live streams, but we're still going to be getting the live stream before the launch of season 10. So I'm really curious to see what that's going to be showing. There's a decent possibility that we actually get some big reveals for what's coming after that during that live stream. And I'm just very curious how they're changing up how they communicate with the community, which is something they've said they're also doing with this, and how the live streams are going to be going forward. And also keep in mind, any overhauls coming to Diablo 4 are going to be free. I don't know why I've been seeing this sentiment that they're somehow going to overhaul a system and put it in the paid part of a new expansion. For one, you can't really do that. Like, you couldn't do a skill overhaul and then put it into the expansion. The game kind of doesn't work like that and can't work like that. So any overhauls to existing systems are all going to be free. Even if they come with the expansion, they would technically be in this season that comes with that expansion or the free part of the expansion. So keep that in mind. I know I've been seeing that on different forums or Reddit or different comment sections that somehow people think they're going to like overhaul something and put it into the paid expansion. All the overhauls are going to be free. So I think we are very much on the cusp of pretty massive changes coming to Diablo 4. Probably the biggest changes we will have gotten in the game's entire history. And I think the start of this is going to be season 11. So whether these big overhauls end up being good or bad, I think we are very much going to be playing essentially a different game going into season 11 and beyond. But that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.